Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is one that I had a lot of fun putting together. What I'm going to do today is rank all of the Netflix original series that I've seen in order of how much I liked them. I actually did this exercise before, several years ago at an old job that I had. Me and my coworkers would play Family Feud every day, and one day we didn't have the cards that we usually had to play, and so we did custom games. And it was my turn to come up with a top whatever list of something and have the people guess. And I picked Netflix original series because that's what I know and that's what I love. So of course Netflix had fewer shows back then, and I had seen fewer of the shows that they did have, so there's a lot more now that I have to keep track of. This list does not include movies or comedy specials, but if it did, I just want to mention Bo Burnham's Inside would be probably in the top 10 easily. But I limited the number of lists I was pulling from to save on time, and also because when I got through the Netflix original series, I realized I had seen exactly 50 of them. So it was just a nice round number. I'm going to start with my least favorite Netflix original series and move my way up to my favorite, so you don't wander off in the middle, because I know that you're going to be waiting for that number one spot. As I go, I think I'll give a quick note about each show if I feel like it deserves a note. Otherwise, I'll just, I won't meander too much. I'll try to go pretty quick because this is a very long list. And with that, let's begin. To start us off in number 50, I have 13 Reasons Why. And I actually only have 3 shows that I actively disliked, and the bottom two, 13 Reasons Why and number 49, which is Slasher, I dislike for the same reason. And the reason is they both depict pretty aggressive sexual violence in a way that I found very upsetting. I get that characters can do evil things, and sometimes those evil things are relevant to plot or relevant to character, or I don't necessarily have a problem with these events happening in the story, but I have a problem with how they affected me as a viewer. I found them very unsettling, and not just that, but very memorable, and I don't need that in my life, I didn't like it. And I think with 13 Reasons Why, it's really a shame because up until that point, I found the story to be very compelling. I feel like it really covered how isolating being a teenager can be, the deep, dark feelings that you can feel when you don't fit in. I don't know. I feel so sad that I can't recommend this show to anybody because I wouldn't want to subject them to that. Even though the rest of the story was really good and really powerful. So, sorry. So that's 50 and 49. The other show that I actively disliked was Lost in Space. I have not watched all of it. I watched up until that moment, which if you've seen it, you probably know which moment I'm talking about. But just in general, I felt like the plot of Lost in Space, as shown by the Netflix series, there were more Lost in Spaces before this point that I liked a lot better. But I just felt like the villain in Lost in Space did not have any apparent motivations. They seemed to just be evil for the sake of being evil. The things that drove them were not clear. And also the other characters seem to be really painfully stupid. I think they're relying a lot on this idea that children make bad decisions, and I just didn't feel like it was very well done. I didn't like it at all. Okay, these next few I didn't dislike necessarily, but I just didn't really find them memorable. 47 is Tribes of Europa, apocalypse, if I remember right, sort of future apocalypse show. 46 was Daybreak, another apocalypse show. I thought it was fine. 45 is 3%. This one's a dystopia, which is slightly different from an apocalypse. It was fine. And then 44 is White Rabbit Project, which actually is a reality sort of show. It's one of the very few that are on here. I really haven't watched many Netflix originals that were not fiction, so there's only a couple on this list. 43, Devilman Crybaby. I watched this through to the end, and I could not tell you what it was about. I remember the first thing I noticed was that the animation style was really weird and unsettling, but there were parts of it that I remember liking, just I don't remember them clearly enough to explain them. 42 is Stranger Things, and this one is going to give me some hate, I think. And I have to explain because it seemed like everyone on the planet loved Stranger Things except for me. I think it was a fine show. I liked it enough to keep watching it, but I didn't have any sort of nostalgia for the time period depicted in the show, which was that 80s? I can't really remember. 70s? Something like that. It just didn't connect with me. I don't know. It was just kind of okay. Sorry, don't hate me. Moving on. 41 is The Way of the House Husband. This was an anime that I think the premise is pretty funny, but it just got a little bit redundant. It got a little bit the premise can only carry you so far. Overall, funny show, worth a watch if you don't have anything else to watch. But it is, it's pretty low on the list. The next three are all similar shows, and they are all sort of superhero revenge stories. So we have The Punisher at number 40, Daredevil at 39, and Luke Cage at 38. And I just get kind of bored with these stories. It's weird because usually, and as you'll see later in the list here, I usually like that very sort of troubled main character, but they just didn't really work for me, and I'm not totally sure why. 37 is The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. I hadn't seen the original movie, which I've forgotten. Was it just called The Dark Crystal? I'm gonna get hate for this one too. I hadn't seen it, but I liked it. I thought it was good. 36 is The Haunting of Hill House, and I just want to add a note here because The Haunting of Bly Manor shows up much higher on the list, and I wanted to explain why. Basically, I felt like Hill House relied a lot more on jump scares, which I really don't like. And I didn't feel like they had as deep of a character sort of thing going on, which I also really liked. In general, though, I liked Haunting of Hill House, even though horror is not usually my thing. 35, we have Another Life. It was fine, good, sci-fi, worth a watch. I just want to point out how even at 35 out of 50, these are pretty good shows. I don't know, there's very few things that Netflix has done that I just really don't like. 34 is Black Summer. I put this one kind of low because I loved Z Nation, but I didn't feel that same love with Black Summer, even though it is set in the same universe, so to speak. Number 33 is Lucifer, and this is specifically the Netflix portion of Lucifer. When they moved Lucifer over to Netflix, they made a shift to how they told the story. They removed a lot of the procedural crime kind of filler plot, and I really liked that. I thought it let them play a lot more with Lucifer's character, with the the hook of the show, which is that he's the devil and he doesn't really understand everything about how humans operate, and they've really just fast-tracked the plot and trimmed everything out, and I get why they did it, but I thought it took away a lot of what I really liked about Lucifer, and it replaced it with a lot of more serious show, which is, it's fine. If it would have been that way from the start, maybe it wouldn't have been a drawback for me. Maybe I would have been fine with it. 32 is Arrested Development, and this also is really because of what they did when they moved it to Netflix. That first season that they did where they replayed the same scenes from different angles, I hated it. I hated it so much. If that season didn't exist, Arrested Development would probably be in the top 10, but that just really dragged it down. That lost a lot of points for me. Okay, 31. Agretzko. I like Agretzko. It's the one with the cute little, what is she, a red panda who sings metal to relieve stress, and she works at an office, and it's kind of a hard premise to explain actually, but I liked early Agretzko, and then I I just felt like a lot of the conflicts were like too easy to solve. Like it was really frustrating being like you could literally send an email to this person and figure out this problem. And I know that's like the point, is that she can't have these conversations and make everything easy, but it got to be too much with the later seasons. Number 30 is Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. This is, I think, the only other show on this list that isn't like a fictional story show. I just love Marie Kondo and I love decluttering, and it's really satisfying to watch. 29 is Alias Grace, which is a Margaret Atwood story. I believe she either consulted on the show or she wrote the script for it. I can't remember, but it's really sad. It's pretty depressing in terms of what happens in the show, but I just thought it was a good sort of mystery. It was really deep and emotional, and I just liked it. I think I watched it in an afternoon because it's only about 6 hours long. 28, we're almost halfway through. Ragnarok, which is a foreign show. We watched the dubs. It's like a Thor, Loki, Norse mythology thing, but Thor and Loki are high school kids and their powers are sort of like awakening as the show goes on. I liked it. I thought it was funny and interesting. It got a little bit sort of black and white, like good guys, bad guys kind of thing, but I still liked it. 27 is Lock and Key, and I think the show is aimed more at like children, a little bit of a younger audience than I typically would get into, but I thought it was really nice. It was very whimsical. It has this sort of magical realism thing that I think can be very cheesy, but I felt like they did a really good job with it. 26, Alice in Borderlands. This is a death game. I like death games. I like this one. 25 is You. So I just started watching You a couple weeks ago. I don't remember exactly how many weeks. And I thought it was pretty good. It was surprisingly tame for a show about a serial stalker. And the thing I found most interesting is that he's the main character, the guy doing the stalking, is not a psychopath. Even though he is like committing crimes, he does do some violence. I don't want to spoil anything, but even though he kind of fits into this role, he is not a psychopath. He has pretty deep like empathy and sort of anticipates other people's feelings, which is unusual for a show like this. So I thought that was interesting. Scribbles is absolutely going crazy. I let her out of her cage so that she might settle down and like have a nap somewhere, but nope, it doesn't seem like that's worked. On to the next show. Number 24 is Hemlock Grove. It's been a long time since I've watched Hemlock Grove. I'm probably not remembering it super clearly, but I remember it being spooky and mysterious and kind of dark, and I remember liking it. 23 is MST3K, or Mystery Science Theater 3000. This is a show that Tyler has been into since he was a kid, my partner Tyler, and he got me into it before they came to Netflix. And then we actually have seen 2 live shows from when they came into Portland, and we backed both their Patreons. We really like that whole, it's funny. It's got just a little bit of story intertwined with the characters, and we just really liked it. Oh, there's Black Kitty. The neighbors are doing construction, so the cats are kind of freaking out. 22 is The Killing. I don't know if I could pinpoint exactly why I liked The Killing, but I know that Joel Kinnaman is in it, and I love him, so maybe that's why. 21 is A Series of Unfortunate Events, and the funny thing about this show is that I read the books as a kid and I hated them. In fact, they might be the only books that I DNF did not finish as a kid, because I had this sort of idea that I had to finish every book that I started for like many, many years, but I did not like these books, and so I did not read them. I didn't care for the movie that came out, but something about the Netflix series just really clicked. Maybe it was acted better. I don't know, but I realized that the entire show has like just layers and layers of puns, and I love puns. I love puns so much, and so I don't know. I really liked this version of it. Number 20, Orange is the New Black. This one gets a little bit like hashtag too real, a little bit grim, a little bit depressing, but it's also very funny. It's a good story. One thing I really like about this show is how they have all these different threads of conflict that in every season they all seem to converge at exactly the right time or exactly the wrong time, depending on which side of the show you're on. It's wrong for the characters usually, but it has some really, really satisfying moments where all the stories sort of come together. Number 19, Love, Death, and Robots. I liked this one. I thought the stories were okay. It's definitely got sort of the Black Mirror vibes, but I think they pulled back a little bit. It wasn't quite as bleak and as quite as sort of speculative as a lot of Black Mirror stories were, but the thing I really liked about this show was the variety of 3D and 2D rendering. I'm really interested in 3D rendering, CG, all that kind of stuff, and it was very cool to see the stuff that they were able to do. There was one in particular that actually starred a character from Orange is the New Black, if I remember right, and I could not figure out if that was actually her or if it was a 3D rendering of her. I'm still not sure if I came to a conclusion by the end of it. It was really tripping me up, but good show. Worth a watch, I think, especially if you're into like computer graphic stuff. 18 is The Queen's Gambit. I liked this show. I thought it was good. It was concise. The story was, it was a nice journey. I also really have a soft spot for women dominating in skills that are typically seen as male, since I am a software engineer and also a woman. So they had that going for it as well. Number 17 is Cursed. This is just a good, like, Arthurian myth story, and I thought it was really well done. I liked it a lot. Very pretty. 16 is Jessica Jones. This is gonna become a theme, but I really like this sort of noir, brooding protagonist, especially if there's a mystery to be solved, as you'll see as we get into the top 3. But I just really like Jessica Jones. I also love David Tennant, and I think he did a spectacular job as the villain of Jessica Jones. 15 is Disenchantment. I like Disenchantment, but I don't have a lot to say about it. It was a good show. It was funny. I think at some points it did start to feel like they were trying a little bit too hard to get some of the punchlines out. But that's really my only complaint. I liked Disenchantment. For some reason, I do forget the name of the show a lot, but I can very clearly remember the characters and the style. Number 14 is Maniac. This is a show that I felt like nobody watched except me, but I really liked it. It was heavily advertised on Netflix. I remember they had the great big full screen ad for it for like a month when it came out. It's kind of this like alternate future where everything is like advanced but still a little bit retro. I'm not quite sure how to explain the setting, but the story is told through these sort of dream sequences. You're skipping around in time a little bit, and I just thought it was really well done. I think Jonah Hill and Emma Stone had an interesting chemistry as the two main protagonists that it resulted in sort of a really nice relationship. I don't want to spoil too much, but it was a good show and I felt good after watching it. Number 13 is The Haunting of Bly Manor, and this is one that I actually had lower on the list, but as I was thinking through what I liked about it, the notes I wanted to add, I realized I actually liked it quite a lot. I don't know. It was spooky, but not too jump scary, which, like I mentioned, I really don't like jump scares. I find them cheap and, they usually get me pretty bad and then I'm frustrated. But this one was a little bit more of a slow burn on the horror aspect of it and it had a lot of romance, which I'm always down for a good romance plot. and I just really liked it. 12 is Santa Clarita Diet. This is a very funny show. I wasn't quite sold on it at first, but I got into it after giving it a little bit more of a chance. The thing I like about this show is that the main characters' relationships with each other are not the conflict. I feel like with family-based shows, they can really rely on the family being a little bit dysfunctional. But everyone in this family is so supportive and kind, and like they work out their issues. And I just thought it was really nice to have a show like this it was just a little bit more positive. 11 is Big Mouth. Big Mouth is very, very funny. It's very funny. It's also very gross. And I think that speaks a lot to like just how funny it is. That the grossness of it didn't put me off. I feel like they've captured exactly what it's like to be a teenager, and that is, you know, it is a gross and confusing and also very funny time. We're in the top 10 now. Let's keep going. I would like to get this done. I don't know how long it's been since I started recording. Number 10 is Mindhunter. I love true crime, and even though Mindhunter is not true crime, it is based on real events and it's based on real people, and it just has that feel of like detectives unraveling a mystery. And that's always been something I've really liked. Number 9 is The Witcher. I didn't get into the Witcher games or even the books beforehand as much as some people did. I played The Witcher 3 and I liked it, but I didn't get all the way through it. And also the show touches on some conflicts that are not directly tied to The Witcher 3, so it didn't really matter that much. But I love Geralt. I like the lore. Once I understood what was happening, I liked it a lot more. This is a show that took me a little bit of outside research before I could figure out what was happening. But instead of being irritated that I had to do that, I felt like it helped me get into the show a lot more. And that song is just so good. You know the one. Number 8 is Umbrella Academy. You can fight me on this statement if you want, but I think the best part of Umbrella Academy is the music. They pick some really, really banging tracks and they line it up with the action so well. I was thrilled. I don't know. The music was so good. I also really like shows with a lot of interconnected like character stories, so they had that going for it as well. And then as a final plus for Umbrella Academy, the comic it was based on was written by Gerard Way and illustrated by Gabriel Ba. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing Gabriel's name right, but I was actually a fan of Gerard Way for a long time in My Chemical Romance, and then also Gabriel Ba did a comic called, I think it was called Day Tripper, that I read in a day. It's kind of long. It's kind of a long one, but I loved that as well. So pretty much, I just love a lot of things about Umbrella Academy. Number 7 is Black Mirror. Black Mirror got a little bit weird in the most recent season. I still liked it, but I just want to recognize that real quick. I'm not even totally sure which seasons were done by Netflix, but there's a lot of Black Mirror that I really like. What I like most is that it has a very Ray Bradbury feel. This sort of like humanity is doomed because of how they've like placed their faith in technology, or like how they've learned to sort of abuse technology. That was Ray Bradbury's whole thing, and so I love Ray Bradbury. I feel like if he was still with us today, this is exactly what he would be doing, is creating these, he probably would have created Black Mirror. Number 6 is BoJack Horseman. BoJack is for everyone who loves puns and also loves jokes about existential dread. Those are my two favorite things, basically. It did take me a little bit to get into BoJack, and I remember, for whatever reason, it was like the 3rd episode when they had the Navy SEAL. It was a seal. For some reason, that's the joke that did it for me. I was like, okay, I'm in. But BoJack does touch a lot of delicate topics like drug addiction, depression, suicidal thoughts, hopelessness. it gets very dark. So please, if you'll be okay, I would recommend watching it. But if those are the kinds of things that might cause you distress, don't watch it. Number 5 is Sense8. Sense8 rips your heart out in every episode almost. It is very emotional. We have the same thing I love where there's all the characters coming together. And the interesting thing, if you don't know about the show, is that the characters are often connected like telepathically over long distances. And so you have all these scenes where they are helping each other or communicating with each other, and the two settings that they are in sort of mesh visually, and it's a stunning show. The story is really good. I loved it. Unfortunately, it was canceled because it was one of the most expensive shows like ever in terms of filming, from a combination of having such a big cast of main like critical actors and also filming in multiple locations around the world. It was apparently very, very expensive. Number 4 is Squid Game. Everyone loves Squid Game, right? Do I have to explain this one? Really? But no, I love a death game, and I probably would have liked Squid Game even if it wasn't super, super well written. The character development was perfect. I still, I've watched it 3 times now, I think, 3 or 4 times, and I still cry at the end of episode 6. If you know, you know. It's beautifully done. I wish I could write that well, and in fact, it's what inspired my NaNoWriMo story for this year, because I wanted to try and reach something like that. I don't think I got close, but it was really inspiring for me. It is gory and violent, though, so use your own discretion if you decide that's something you want to watch. Number 3, we're almost done. Number 3 is the OA. The OA is really weird. This is another one that I don't think very many people watched, other than myself, but I love the OA. It's got this sort of magical realism thing combined with an unreliable narrator. So you have all these sort of mystical things happening, but it's not clear if they're actually happening or if it's something that the main character has like either hallucinated or just made up. And I really liked that aspect of it. There's also another, this is becoming a thing for me. A lot of characters, they all have their sort of individual stories that you get little glimpses of. And at the end, everything comes together in a way that is very satisfying. Number 2 on my list may surprise some people that know me personally, because for a long time, this was my number 1 show, and you might wonder, actually, you might not wonder because you might have heard me talk about it, but anyway, number 2 is Altered Carbon. This was my favorite Netflix original for a long time, my favorite TV show, just like in general. I love it. It's got exactly the sort of vibes that I like in a TV show. You have the main character who is this just like damaged, brooding, heartbroken. I really, really like that. I find, it's like cathartic to go through those sort of emotions with a character and sort of go on their journey. And then it's also got the cyberpunk noir, like he is basically a private detective investigating a murder, so you have that piece as well. And then on top of it, like you have the sci-fi, and then you also have this like magical element where like the envoys have supernatural abilities. They are somewhat magical. The scenes that take place on Harlan's world, it's this very foresty, sort of like whimsical place where like you have the songspire trees, they glow, they look like something out of a fantasy. And so Altered Carbon really just touches everything I like in a show. But it was dethroned to number 2. So also Poe. Poe is one of the best characters ever, and he wasn't even in the book. He was added. well, he was adapted for the show, so there was an AI hotel in the book, but it wasn't Poe themed. And so I just thought, really well done. He's great. Okay, here we are. Number 1. My number 1 favorite show that is a Netflix original series is Arcane. And this obviously is a new development because Arcane just came out a month ago, 2 months ago. It's a very new show. A lot of people who want to watch it haven't watched it yet, so I won't do any spoilers. I'll just talk, generally speaking. Arcane, as you might guess from the title, is very magical. It's about the arcane. It's also deeply emotional. It mainly deals with like the relationship between two sisters, and also some relationships that are more parental in nature. Without getting, of course, without doing any spoilers, there's a lot of complicated relationships in this show, a lot of betrayal, a lot of misunderstandings, and I just thought it satisfies that part of me that really wants to feel the ache. It's a good emotional show. It has a lot of action, and like kind of above all, like the thing that really pushed Arcane above for me is how beautiful it is. Like you could just pause the show at any frame and you would have like a work of art. It's beautifully done. I don't know how they got the 3D with the sort of painted look to it. That's not something I understand how to do. It's just really, really good. Another thing that Arcane has that I just love is a deep, complicated villain, potentially 2 villains depending on how you categorize your characters. But like I mentioned with Lost in Space, I take character very seriously. I do not like cheap villains who are just like, oh, I'm bad because because someone was mean to me once. Like, I feel like you have to have these deep threads of motivation and like, what do they want? What is their goal? And like, where does it come from? And I feel like they got that. They got that really well in Arcane. I've also heard people complain about the music, but I thought the music was fantastic. I don't know. The complaint I remember hearing was that it was like a style disconnect to have this like modern sort of poppy music or like modern hip hop style music with like what's essentially a fantasy story, but I don't know. Different strokes for different folks, I guess, but I thought the music was really, really good too. 10 out of 10. I would recommend you go watch this right now. Turn the video off, open up Netflix. It's got 9 episodes. I think they're each about 45 minutes long. So you should be able to get through it today. Anyway, great story, a work of art, good show. It'll probably sit solidly in my top slot until something else comes out, something better, which I'm waiting for. You can do it, Netflix. I believe in you. Oh, how long is that captain back there? I don't know if you could even see him. I just heard him jump down, but that's gonna be it for today. Whew, I should have brought some water with me. My throat is very dry. I'm getting a little bit hoarse, but I love Netflix originals. I feel like they do a really good job. If they could just stop canceling everything after 2 seasons, I think they could do a lot better. But overall, as you saw, I really like what Netflix has put out. I think they do a really good job with their original content, and I am excited to see what they come out with next year. So that's going to be it for this video. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Thank you so much for watching, and in the comments, let me know what is your favorite Netflix original series, or if you don't watch Netflix original series, which is a hard concept for me, what is your favorite TV show? Let me know. I hope you have a good day. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.